Hello, it's Harry, and thank you for joining me. For real, happy New Year officially. It is 2021, and we're hoping that this year is going to be a lot better than last year. So as we get underway, I am going to run down the top reports of the first decade of the 1800s, and we'll get underway with music. The most significant event of 1801 is the Battle of Copenhagen. During the Napoleon Wars, the British kept free trade from France, considering that Napoleon was the number one enemy. But considering that Russia, Prussia, and Sweden, led by Denmark, decided to disregard the rules of Britain and find an alternate trade route to get to France and begin alternate trade routes. Britain declared war on the Danish. The fleet was led by Admiral Hyde Parker, but it was Vice Admiral Horatio Nelson who was the real hero of the battle. He led them to victory despite the fact that he was ordered to retreat, and continued on, claiming a sound victory for the Britons. In further news from the decade, the Louisiana Purchase was completed on December 20th, 1803. Wow, what a Christmas present. Up to date, this is the largest purchase America has ever made for its assets in the United States. It stems from New Orleans to the Panhandle of Texas, all the way up to Montana. Napoleon Bonaparte originally owned this land and wanted to set up his empire throughout the region. But with new uprisings throughout the land and new illnesses arising, it was in his best interest to sell it to the highest bidder, which of course was the United States of America. This started in April and was completed in December. The quintessential keystone of this purchase was the Mississippi River, which was the perfect route for trade between Mexico and Canada. All this did not come necessarily without a cost. Not only did Napoleon use his money to wage war on Britain, but oppression and slavery were very deep in America. This would take several decades to overcome, but eventually the nation would be free. The First Barbary War, otherwise known as the Tripolitanian War or the Barbary Coast War, began on May 10th, 1801, and ended on June 10th, 1805. For over a century, Barbary corsairs pillaged and destroyed vessels on the Mediterranean, capturing their crew, selling them as slaves, or forcing them to worship Allah, lest they were killed. America intervened, destroying Barbary ships on the Mediterranean. Once Tripoli demanded money for the loss of their ships, President Jefferson refused. Tripoli declared war on America. This ended several years later in a peace treaty. April of 1805 would be the very first time that America planted their flag on foreign soil. In 1806, Noah Webster was the very first person to comprise the English language into a single dictionary. The question is, was he the genius who came up with this, or was he simply the first one, allowing his name to be blessed on this book to this day? In May of 1807, Aaron Burr is indicted for treason. Wait a minute. Wasn't he the vice president who ran for the presidency? I guess it's a good thing he lost, huh? The most interesting story of the first decade of the 1800s would have to be the Lewis and Clark expedition. The expedition was funded by President Jefferson and ran across the Continental Divide. Lewis and Clark's mission was to claim territory for the United States before other countries could claim it themselves. They mapped lands, surroundings, and environments. They learned cultures from Native Americans. They learned about animal behavior, types of animals, types of plants, and recorded all this in journals to be able to understand all their surroundings and claim the land for themselves in the Americas. The Lewis and Clark expedition ran from May 14th, 1804 to September 23rd, 1806. The Presidents of the United States, from the presidency itself to 1810. The first President of the United States, George Washington, from April 30th, 1789 to March 4th, 1797. The second President of the United States, John Adams, from March 4th, 1797 to March 4th, 1801. The third President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, from March 4th, 1801 to March 4th, 1809. The fourth President of the United States, James Madison, from March 4th, 1809 to March 4th, 1817. And now this.